Hey JD, how's it
Hey, I'm pretty
going?
good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. How's the holidays treating you? I was
Oh
busy
man,
this weekend.
what's that?
I
What
was
was
busy
la-
this weekend.
Oh, it was the holiday. I can't quite tell if I feel like the holidays are right around the corner or still a ways off. We're like in that weird nether zone. Like I think this time next week, obviously everything will be ramping up for Christmas and things like that. But so I'm kind of it's still not quite fully here. Some of that is because I think it's just again a different year we're used to with COVID and stuff like that. A little more outings this year than last year. Went to dinner to friends and went out to another dinner with some other friends, for the holidays. And so far, pretty good. It's interesting. Last year's COVID Christmas was like just me, and I really liked it, weirdly enough. Like I connected with the people that I wanted to connect with, but then I just kind of had my own thing, and I had never done that before. It was novel, it was new, it was self-care, it was
Hmm.
all really good. Um, this year again, doing something different, with the larger family than we're used to, but so that has it feeling a little different. Some travel involved and things like that, but which you normally don't do. So the weird thing though is I noticed the other day, I'm not doing the things I normally do, particularly like watching holiday movies. I have very little interest in, and that is rare. I was watching one of my favorites the other night for like 10 minutes and was just
No,
not
didn't.
really. Yeah. And it was actually, it wasn't just like, oh, I'm bored. It was like, no, I don't want to watch this.
Hmm.
And I'm not sure exactly what that was about. And because I wasn't sure that what that was about, even that felt weirdly unsettling. So right, there was like, I'm like, all right, there's a story in the first part, and then I did a story in the second part, but I don't really know what those look like.
Hmm.
But it's been sticking with me a little bit. I'm wondering why some of
Huh.
those things aren't feeling as welcoming or as helpful.
Hmm.
I don't know.
What's the typical story about the typical holiday movies that you like to watch? Like, what's the story behind that?
Oh, they sort of get me in the mood. They get me in the feeling of the season. They're fun. They're I have memories of watching them when I was younger, or it's so there's nostalgia with it. There's like, oh, this is a way to kind of get into the feel of the season and being so busy, and and it's not like the themes are bad, right? Hope, family, peace, growth, those types of things. I,
So has that always worked? Has it always worked that watching the movies gets you in the feeling? It gives you nostalgia. It is it always worked?
well, it always does something. Um, when you ask that, it's funny because I watch them to for positive reasons and to feel positive feelings, but throughout my life, at times it's reinforced negative stories and feelings of loneliness, feelings of
Hmm.
separateness, right, from the holidays. Like I don't quite relate. I don't have the house and the spouse and the children and the dog and the buy the car for somebody, or the or the ring, or the you know all those things. So sometimes it doesn't work, and there are times where I probably have been a glutton for punishment.
But it sounds like it's the story is a part of the story is that it's made you feel something,
Yeah,
whether it's the more what we would say positive or
yeah,
not. It's made you
oh
feel
yeah,
something.
oh yeah.
And what was the feeling then most recently? Or maybe there wasn't a feeling about it. I don't know. What did you notice?
Um, it wasn't at first. I didn't think. I was like, why am I watching this? I'm not interested in this.
Oh.
It just wasn't. It wasn't doing anything positive. And now that I reflect on it, I think I was starting to feel something quote unquote negative out of it, even if it was, this doesn't work anymore. This doesn't
Mhm.
bring up anything. This doesn't help me get into the spirit of things.
And why is that story negative?
That's a good question. Why is that story negative? That's a great question, and that just has me reframing the whole thing. I guess it shouldn't necessarily be negative because it's just a movie, right? I can get emotions from other things, or feel emotions from. I don't know. That's a good question.
Well, yeah, well, and I think about, should it or should it not make anything in particular happen? I don't know. Like, what's the expectation that you have about movies or holiday movies?
I wouldn't have said this or wouldn't have seen this until just now, but there's something about watching them because of the things I've mentioned before, kind of feeling displaced sometimes or separate. It's something that connects me with something about the holiday. It feels comfortable. It's something that I can go to. It's something that I enjoy. And historically, I haven't always enjoyed the holidays. They've every year I wonder sometimes, how are they going to go? How am I going to feel? And there's something about them that they feel safe to go to, but not always, as I talked about before. So that's a really good question. That's kind of there's a BS story in there about something, because scratching under the surface, there's not much there.
Right. But there's something about comfort, whether is comfort, is part of that comfort just that there's feelings initiated one way or the other? I mean, because sometimes comfort is just what's familiar, whether we're going to put it in a positive or negative camp.
Yeah.
Is there something about that?
Yeah. It's, wow. You know what? I think there is a level of discomfort for me at the holidays regularly. And that's a place where I could not either, this is the interesting part, either be comfortable with maybe a positive thing that feels good, or comfortable knowing I can go to those and feel negative emotions or feel sad or whatever in a familiar way. Is that?
Yeah.
That's
Maybe.
not that's not very helpful though, is it? Or is that a story too?
Yeah, maybe that's a story too, where that things have to create a particular something or other based off of our expectations around what's happened in the past.
Yeah. Wow.
And then if it doesn't create something familiar, then it's a problem, or
something's gone wrong, right? Or
yeah. Mm-hmm.
there's I think probably everybody on some level, from a mind space, I can come at this and go from a headspace and say, dealing with difficult feelings is common for people at the holidays for whatever reason, right? The meal has to go a certain way with the family, or the family get together has to go well, or so and so, if it doesn't, what's it mean about the status of the family, or whatever. And I've really tried to not subscribe to a lot of that. But I'm noticing, maybe just because in the last couple of years it's been so much more solo time because of COVID and less, that those things like that I do solo on my own, maybe what's happening with the movies is it's getting held up to the light, and I'm like, this may not be all that useful for me anymore.
Maybe. And it's interesting that you talked about the story of that lots of people would say that it's difficult, dealing with difficult emotions and feelings around the holidays, and dealing with difficult emotions and feelings around life happens every day.
Right. Right. It's not
to minimize what happens to the holidays, but that happens every day of the year, probably.
It does. And I know that. It's interesting because everything gets amplified for whatever reason at the holidays for me. Like if I'm not connected to the people that I want to be connected to, it feels tougher at the holidays than it would other times of the year. Or I tell myself that, because now that I think about it, I don't think that's true either.
Right. Like there's some stories around expectations of us all around the holidays. Certainly. I mean,
Oh, man. Okay. So what am I looking at here?
well, okay. What are you looking at? You're looking at like you had an experience where you sat down to watch a holiday movie that in the past you associated as you'd feel something. And maybe that didn't happen this time. And then that became a problem story.
When I could probably maybe I could sit down and try 10 minutes again, and this time it's okay. And it doesn't do anything. I just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. Or not. And it'd be okay either way. Like maybe you just sat down and there was something else, you know, that you weren't necessarily conscious of wanting to do, or just not, you know, that didn't seem to be the time that the connection was gonna happen in a familiar way. And
So,
and we didn't, yeah. And then we think something's wrong.
right, we put it, or if it's like me, you put it in the column of that was good or that was bad, or that was helpful, that was not helpful. I'm rewinding my words from the last few minutes, and I'm putting everything into these categories rather than just, it doesn't have to mean a damn thing, does it?
No, and probably in your body, it doesn't mean anything. It's when you go up to your head to start,
Yeah.
okay, why is this happening? What should I be? Should I not be? And that's where then the continued thinking about it, trying to figure it out or solve for it, right?
That's right. Because as I sit here and you talk about that and I soften a bit, it's fine. So we just talk for 10 minutes for you to come around to. That's fine. It's not, it's, I mean, it is what I make it, isn't it? Or not make it.
Is. Yeah.
It's interesting that for me, once upon a time, I would have called that denying the reality of my feelings. To
What do you
stay,
call it?
I can make that what I want, right? But it's not, because you're right. From the headspace, I have to make a decision. But I don't really feel that right now in my body talking about this. It feels actually really free and really loose and really okay.
Yeah. So then you're allowed to be in a space of being open and present and aware and connected with yourself. Okay, I've decided, or I'm feeling an urge to get away or do something different or be open to something other than
Curious.
Yeah, the story about this particular holiday movie that I've had throughout my life.
Oh man.
That's what we do. We're laughing because it just, when we notice and we have more awareness moment to moment to moment, and we reflect.
Yeah, it's not as weighty as anything by itself. It's the weight that I give it, it seems to.
Yeah. So anyways, well, it was great chatting about
this. That was great. Okay, good. I can move on with my life without the weight of holiday movies.
And if you watch another holiday movie, great. And if you don't, great.
I'll let you know how that turns out.
Yeah, let me know.
Happens. All right. Thanks.